Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Tolu Aya Adewusi. It's always a wonderful time whenever I get in the kitchen and sharing some of my recipes with you. Today I'm keeping it simple. Guys, guess what? I was under the weather for about 2 weeks, and to add on top of that, it was storming. When I say storming, it was storming. Nobody could go out, and your girl is so used to pepper soup. Anytime I'm under the weather like that, or I can move around and it's so cold, I love to do maybe some pepper soup or some hot chili. Then something just dun in my head and say, why don't you just make your own chicken noodle soup? So I made the chicken noodle soup. It is fabulous. My mom is very traditional. She doesn't like to eat any Onyibo kind of food, but she loved the chicken noodle soup. I shared it with some friends and family. They love it, and I'm like, why not? Why can't I share it with my YouTube family? Why can't I share it with all of you out there? This is my own recipe, and I would love you to try it and tell me what you think about it. So I'm making chicken noodle soup, and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. This is something if you want something light, or something when it's so cold, or you don't want to eat too heavy, or you're just trying to encourage somebody to eat. Somebody is sick and you're trying to encourage them to eat. This is very nourishing, and this is wonderful. So let me introduce you to the ingredients we're gonna be using for this chicken noodle soup. So today we have our wild egg noodles. I have here about 10 pounds of egg noodles, which is about 1.25 cups of egg noodles. I have my chicken. I already quick boiled this chicken. It's not totally done. If you can see, you can still see some redness in the chicken, and that is because I am still going to put it into the soup, and it's still gonna cook more. So I do not want to overcook my chicken. For this chicken noodle soup, I'm gonna be putting in some vegetables. This is my peas and carrots. I have my carrots here and I have my peas here. These are ready to go. Then I'm gonna be using some spring onions, scallions, and some onions, some sweet onions in this chicken noodle soup. Also, I'm gonna be using some bell pepper. I'm yet to cut up the bell pepper. I was working on cutting all this up earlier. And I'm gonna be using some cilantro and parsley for garnishing. And for the seasoning I'm using for this chicken noodle soup, I have here my homemade ginger and garlic paste. I'm gonna be putting in some parsley leaf. This is rosemary, and in here is my oregano basil tomato blend. It has some marjoram leaf in it too. It is very aromatic and it is very warm, and it gives the chicken noodle soup a lot of depth. And I'm also gonna put in some cumin. Of course, we're gonna put a little bit of salt and some bouillon. Guys, this is Tolu Cooks, and let the fun begin.
Tell me who you know, who plans better, that dream come true. Yeah. She not there disappoint.
At this time, I'm gonna go ahead and put my water on the stove and let this start boiling, because I want my water hot. Then I'm gonna put in my egg noodles into the water, so that way I do a quick boil on the noodles. People will say if you want your noodles all the way done, you want about 7 minutes, but I'm just gonna go for the noodles in the hot water for about 5 minutes, because by the time I still put in all the ingredients, it's still gonna cook more, and I do not want my noodles totally falling apart. It's gonna be really soft, but not to the point that you can see it in the soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the stove, and I'm gonna put it on high because I want boiled water. And I'm gonna go back to the sink and start up cutting up my peppers. So this is my bell pepper. I'm gonna go ahead and dice it up, and I'm gonna give this a fine diced, and we're gonna start cooking. water is already boiling. We're gonna go over to the stove. So if you can see, my water is already boiled. So I'm gonna put my egg noodles in a pan and I'm gonna switch stove. So I'm gonna pour the hot water over the egg noodles. You just want to make sure you have enough to cover. Just enough to make sure that the water covers the egg noodles. And we're gonna keep that covered. And in this pot, I'm gonna go ahead and start my vegetables. So I'm gonna turn on the stove. So for the chicken noodle soup, I really do not like to use a lot of oil, but because I'm using a lean chicken, so there is no fat on the chicken at all. If my chicken has fat on it, I won't use any oil at all. So I'm just using 1 spoon of oil, and I'm gonna put in some onions. So I'm just gonna throw in some onions. You can see that. I just want the onions to release its flavor into the oil, because you have to know that whenever you're cooking, building up the flavor, building it up layer by layer makes your food more intense, and it makes the taste very, very amazing. So now that we have the onions there, I'm gonna take in my chicken. I'm gonna put it in. So when I did a quick boil on the chicken, all I used was salt and chicken bouillon. I didn't use any other thing. I just wanted to keep it simple, and it's because I do not want the chicken to stay in the pot for too long. I want it tender. That's why I went with that option. You can decide to just do your raw chicken like this, and some people use some canned chicken for their chicken noodle soup. I did not like using canned food. That's why I like to use the fresh chicken. So this is a chunky chicken noodle soup. So now that is done, I'm gonna put in my peas and carrots. You see, that looks really beautiful. So that's the peas and carrot. It's time for me to season this soup. So this is my basil, oregano, dried tomato, my marjoram mix. I love using this for chicken noodle soup. It gives it a lot of flavor. So I'm using 2 teaspoons. This is half a teaspoon. So I'm putting 2 teaspoons of that. Woo, it already smells amazing. You see that? We're already getting the dirty look that we get from the chunky chicken noodle soup. And at this time I had in my ginger and garlic paste. I'm just going to use about half a teaspoon because I do not want the ginger or the garlic to be overwhelming in this soup. Now on the side of the egg noodles, that is boiled enough. I'm going to take it to the sink and I'm going to dump it into a strainer. So I have a strainer sitting in a bowl. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump that in so that way you can get the hot water out, and that would help it stop cooking. If I leave it sitting in the hot water, it's gonna continue cooking, but like this, it's gonna stop the cooking process. And I come back to the stove. Did you see? That looks amazing. So I'm gonna put in my parsley flakes. So I'm using 1 teaspoon because it's half teaspoon, I'm sorry. I like to make sure that I put in my bell peppers at this time. I'm just using the bell peppers. I'm gonna leave the cilantro for the last thing to come in. I'm gonna add in my cumin. This is actually one half of a teaspoon and half of it, so that's like 3/4 of a teaspoon. So I'm using it all. I'm gonna go ahead and put in half teaspoon of my rosemary. This is the time I can now put in my bouillon. So I'm using an heapful, 3 of it, and I'm using 1 of salt. You can always taste it. If the seasoning is not enough for you, you can always do what? Add more seasoning. You do not want to put too much from the beginning. If you put too much from the beginning, you cannot take it out. That's it. But we can always come back and add more if the need be. This is looking amazing. Look at that. That is looking amazing. So, my egg noodles is coming in now, and I'm gonna put some water and cover it up and let it steam. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the egg noodles. We have onions left. We're gonna go ahead and put in the onions. We do not want to put in the scallion now. They cook real quick. So I would not want the scallion to overcook. So at this point, I'm gonna put in water. It's gonna be about 2 cups of water. If you feel this is not enough broth for you, you can always add more broth. You can use chicken broth. If you have that, I do not have chicken broth. I would have put in some chicken broth. You can always put in chicken broth. And also, I did not put out my black pepper. I'm gonna put in some black pepper in the soup. If you want it more spicier than that, you can put in your habanero. If you do not want it spicy at all, skip the black pepper. But the black pepper is not hot at all. I always like to put it in towards the end of the cooking. I'm gonna cover this up, and if you feel like your broth is not thickened enough as you like it, just take 1 teaspoon of corn flour or your flour, put it in water and put in 1 tablespoon of water and mix it well and put it, and it will thicken it up. I do not like my chicken noodle soup too thick. I like to see my broth clear, so that's why I'm not using cornstarch. But if I'm putting in a whole lot of broth in this, I would definitely put in some cornstarch to thicken up my broth. So I'm gonna cover this up, and I'm gonna let all that seasoning bind together. This is gonna cook for about 5 minutes, and I'll put in the last things, and our chicken noodle soup is ready. So the soup has been cooking for about 5 minutes. If you look in here, we can still see our noodles, and we still have broth left. If you want more broth, just add in some more chicken broth or more water, If this broth is enough for you, keep it like that. I love to have a whole lot of things in my chicken noodle soup. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my spring onions, the scallion. Because I always want that freshness in it, because you know the vegetables has been cooking in it. Then this is my cilantro, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix that in. If you can see, this is not your ordinary chicken noodle soup. This chicken noodle soup is busy. This is my chunky chicken noodle soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put in some black pepper at this time. So I have to look very well to see what I'm putting in. So this is my peppercorn black pepper, and I'm gonna go ahead. This is to taste. Just put as much as you want in your soup. And that looks good to me. And I'm gonna put a little bit more of sea salt. I have some in it before, but I just wanna put a little bit more because it needed just a little bit more salt. If you notice, I only put half a teaspoon when I was cooking. I'll mix this together. And in the next 1 minute, the soup will be on the plate. I will show you what it looks like on the plate. This is so yummy-licious. Wow, this looks good. I don't even know if I should talk or if I should start eating. This chicken noodle soup is wonderful. Wow, let me taste it for you, okay? It must be good. Your girl cooked it. This is wonderful. It is rich. It is very, very loaded with vegetables, with chicken. You can see the chicken in it. I love for people to see the food when they are eating it. I do not just want to hear chicken noodle soup and not see the chicken in it. This is chunky chicken noodle soup, and you can always have it with crackers, or you can have it with some rolls, and you balance it out. It doesn't have to be a big meal all the time. You can keep it simple, and you can always take this to a friend if you feel like they're under the weather, or you just want to give them something on a cold day. So this is what I brought to you guys from Tolu's kitchen. It's always an amazing time when I get in the kitchen sharing my recipes with you, and I thank all the people that took care of me while I was under the weather, eating the soup, and all the colds we've had here. It's been really, really a tough winter, but we're thankful to God. God has brought us this far. So guys, please remember to hold on to your faith. Remember to love your family and never let go of your wonderful, beautiful friend. This is the tree of life, and they keep us grounded and keep us going in every stages of life. It is a pleasure cooking for you again once again. Please remember to subscribe, remember to share, and remember to like my videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next episode of Tolu Cooks. Mwah!